Texas, how about this? Bud, what do you attribute Texas's no-show at the start of the game?
I thought Georgia had a good plan for them,
Yeah.
honestly. They attacked some of these longer developing Texas plays. I think they made Texas, try to block it up, get the ball out quick on some of the non-screen stuff, and they were able to tackle that pretty well. I thought Georgia tackled very well on the night. Early in the game, I thought Jalen Walker played extremely well, and then
Mhm.
later in the game, Michael Williams played well. The Texas offensive tackles, who I do think are going to be really high draft picks, like they got beat tonight, and that was a problem. Quinn Ewers, I know Tom will talk about it more in a second, but like it didn't look real comfortable all night. Not that a lot of quarterbacks would, I don't think, but Georgia getting to them before some of those like long developing plays was one of the keys that I saw.
Yeah, I thought the entire game was just the tone was set by the Georgia defensive line. Like they dominated from the start. They were whipping that Texas offensive line's butt early. They were getting pressure on Ewers. Ewers has never been somebody who, it's when he's moving, when he's running, he's not nearly as accurate as a lot of other guys are. Like that is probably the primary weakness in Quinn Ewers' game. He needs to be in the pocket. He needs to just be kind of, planted and ready to go, good feet and just nice solid base and throw. When you get him out of that, he's not nearly as effective, especially now because whatever the injury was, the oblique, the abdominal, you feel like those off-platform throws that you have to make when you're running and moving out of the pocket, he doesn't look very comfortable throwing them. And you saw a lot of the times when he would be rolling out and throwing, the throws were short, like by not by, a yard, by like 5 to 6 yards. And Georgia really heated him up. They were killing that offensive line. They finished with 10 tackles for loss and 7 sacks on the evening. And the thing is, too, like even when Texas went to Arch Manning, who was much more mobile, Arch had a couple of runs where he got out and took off. Like he had the one long 21-yard run, but he still finished with negative 1 yard rushing because he was getting pressured in the pocket and getting taken down with really nowhere to go. Georgia's defensive line won this game. The big matchup going in was we talked about the Georgia defensive line versus the Texas offensive line, a bunch of NFL players on both sides. Who is going to win? Georgia's won. Georgia's won by a whole hell of a lot. The Bulldogs went on the road and doubled up Texas on a night that Carson Beck was 23 of 41 for 175 yards and 3 interceptions.
2, 3, yeah. 2 of them in the first half.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense, that was Georgia football. That was like classic. Their defense won them a game, period.
Is Georgia still going to be number 15 in your rankings? We got to run the numbers later.
I don't know. They'll be moving up because teams ahead of them lost, and that's what matters more than anything. But they'll be moving up. I can't predict what the ratings are going to do. I know Texas won't be at number 1 anymore.
Was Texas really 1 of 5 on fourth down?
Yeah.
Okay, into the game, into the half.
There was one at the end of the half. There was a few times. I mean, since they were in the hole early. So how Sark is. Sark's not going to be conservative once you're in trouble. He's not going to sit there and try to play the field position game. So yeah, they went for it a lot, and it did not work.
I just in the moment, like it didn't occur to me that they were like missing that many fourth downs.
Well,
it didn't 2 for 14 on third. Like they
I was going to say they were
right. Yeah.
Like I mean, it's just from the jump, and that's the thing that's so impressive. It's just I think Shu got a good plan for us. Like Kirby shouting out Glenn Schumann, like to your point, Bud, about the preparation, about the way that they came in, they found something. They came in with a little bit of an edge to them. Georgia is not going to feel remarkably better about its offense coming out of this game because Carson Beck had 3 interceptions. He also had a lot of like
bad
passes
throws
that were off the mark. Yeah, bad throws that were just off the mark. Loved. Heavy dose of ETN early. Thought he was running really, really hard in sort of the opening frames of that game. You've still got guys like Bell and Smith that are you run those little easy throw routes, and then they're athletic enough that if they can make one guy miss, they can go and get you that first down. They can go move the sticks along the way. It is a Georgia team that it's a top 5 team, but they do need to play complementary football in order to win. It's just that today, Georgia's defensive front was the best unit on the field for either of these teams.
in building the 17-0 lead, they got up 132-15 in total yards.
Yeah,
That
15.
was wild. Okay.
What do you guys
That's
think
pretty impressive.
of like the decision to bench Ewers and then go back to him?
I don't mind it because you gave it a shot, and best thing Arch did was just run.
It's like you kind of had the moment of clarity, or it's like, well, nope, it's not Quinn, so might as well throw him back out there.
You mean Welp? It's not Arch.
No, like Quinn's not the reason we're getting killed right now because Arch isn't doing any better.
Yeah. I mean, or Arch. I don't know if it's not Quinn. I think it's like, well, Arch isn't the answer.
It just felt Spurrier-ish to me.
Maybe
like seeing, hey, maybe one of these guys can get hot. I can get the hot hand going, and we'll try to figure something else out. Like that's the one thing I like about Sark. I think he's a good play caller, but I also think he's not going to sit on his hands. Like he's going to try stuff to see if it works when things aren't working.
Like that's not really a criticism of Sark. It's just, yeah, right. Like I'm going to try something. I agree with you on that, Tom. I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, Arch comes in. Ewers throws the ball into that trap corner like early. I thought that was really killer for them when they had momentum to move after the first pick that they got off Beck. I mean, Texas was just not as like they were not affecting Georgia's O-line like Georgia's D-line was affecting the Texas O-line. Like I think Tom said it. Like that's really what it came down to. Bond kind of had some stuff going for a little bit, and then he didn't play like the final 4 or 5 drives. I assume he got hurt again or just re-aggravated the injury, so that's a problem. We'll see.
How do you look at Texas moving forward? What's the adjustment? How does the note card change? Because we are sitting here, phrases similar to, I don't know if there's a great team in college football, but it might be Texas. Texas looks like the most well-rounded team in the country. And this is college football, which is one of the great joys. We get to change our opinions with new data, and it is always a small sample size. So now as we adjust, because we've seen Texas play the most difficult competition that the Longhorns have played so far this year, what's the adjustment with who Texas is and how they are going to play against the best teams in the country?
Don't play Georgia. No. I mean, kind of along to your point there, Texas did look like the most complete team in the country to me going into tonight. But I think the other thing we've talked about is there is no team without flaws.
Right.
And you saw Texas's flaws tonight because I don't know if he's not 100% or what, but that was not the Quinn Ewers we had seen early in the year before he got hurt. And he certainly, I mean, obviously having a defensive lineman in your face or on your ass after 2 seconds that, by the time you're in the third step of your drop repeatedly is not going to make anybody look good. It's just, he seemed rattled. It seemed like they were the road team. Like the way that offense was playing and how rattled they looked, especially in the first half, it felt like they were on the road in an environment that they weren't quite prepared to handle yet. So that was very strange to me. But I just think that they got the crap beat out of them. I don't know if there really needs to be an adjustment to be made. I think tonight Georgia was just a much better football team on defense, at least. And that was enough to win the game because you look at Georgia, we talked about it. Like the defense was great. The offense was still bad. Like you're coming out of this, you're thrilled you got this win. You needed this win. It's huge for you in the SEC. It's huge for your playoff resume if you're looking down the road there. But you did not play well. You shouldn't come out of this thinking you're elite.
So a couple things. One, I feel like Georgia did not really care about Texas run game at all. And that's maybe like going back to the fact Texas had those backs who were injured, but like it just didn't. Do you feel like Georgia respected the Texas run game? Maybe sticking with that a little bit more, be able to move people off the ball a little more, maybe could have helped some. I also think that if you play this again, come the playoff, if you have a healthy Isaiah Bond, like to me, that could be a difference maker for you. I don't know that it would, but it could. Like, I don't feel like any of the Texas receivers tonight were really all that scary, to a Georgia secondary that has been at times vulnerable this year. So those two things maybe could help Texas. I don't know, like maybe you go to Arch.
Cedric, if you're going to play that game, Cedric Baxter would have made a difference.
Sure, right? Yeah, but Cedric, like he's not coming back, whereas Bond, like we assume, could get back to full health.
Okay, let's have the conversation. So the biggest thing that we should take away from college football, maybe not even in week 8, but maybe in the entire month of October, is that if you don't like a call, just throw bottles on the field. Okay. I'm going to call this the toddler tantrum theory, that if you don't like what's happening, just kick and scream and throw things. And who knows, maybe the stoppage of play will lead the officials to reviewing the call and changing their mind. What in the world do you make of that sequence?
It's very strange in that we have seen this repeatedly this year, where referees, whether they're allowed to via replay rules or not, are getting together on calls that they realize they got wrong and changing them, which I think in the grand scheme of things is the right thing to do. The timing of it tonight was horrible because you can argue that Texas fans throwing those bottles on the field and delaying the game is what gave the refs time to get together to make that choice. So whether it was like, oh my God, these people are going to kill us and they were scared, if that played a role into it or not, I don't know. It doesn't matter. What all that matters is you delayed the game long enough to give these refs second thoughts, and for somebody to come in and say, "Hey guys, I think we blew this one. If you've looked at the replays on the scoreboard up there, we've really messed this one up. So let's just change it." So, yeah, I think that boosters will be sitting outside of student sections with cases of water, handing them out before every home game for the rest of the season, ready to fire at will.
Do we really think if it had not been delayed, that it would not be overturned? I don't know. I'm not questioning it. Like it's very possible that the delay had a big impact on the overturn. But are we sure?
I do, because if there's no review, because you can't review it,
Right.
you got to go to the next play. The 40-second clock is running. Like you've got to snap the ball. So they're not sitting. The refs aren't then looking at the video board. They're just they're checking what they're supposed to do pre-snap every single play, making sure the substitutions are getting in, the play clock's running, this guy's in the right position, blah, 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 whatever the hell everything they do pre-snap is. They're not looking at the giant $4 billion scoreboard Texas has.
Well, Tom, I'm sure they weren't really doing that, right? Like I'm sure they were just, conferencing with each other and yeah.
That's why you buy that big ass video board,
right?
So the refs can see they screwed up and save you. Although it didn't matter in the end, which is probably for the best, because if Texas comes back to win this game after that happens, oh my God, it would have been great for us. Yeah. But just for the sport in general, it would have been a problem.
Who's the guy that was like allegedly offsides on some kind of punt play a long time ago for Bama against Georgia? And like Georgia fans still bring this up in our mentions sometimes. Like that would have been basically the thing there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any other lingering thoughts here? We got, we got to keep motoring. But
who's the next test for Texas, you think, on this schedule?
Oh, good call. Let's see.
I mean, at Vandy obviously is a test of like
they'll lose next week.
Look, they already beat Bama. Right?
Tyler Simmons, for those of you who are listening at home.
There we go. Sure. See, Georgia fans in the chat, I'm sure.
Vandy is undefeated at home in that game as at First Bank Stadium next week. Texas,
and you host the Gators. You're at Arkansas. You host Kentucky.
Texas
when
A&M.
are we gonna know? We may know in the negative on Georgia, or sorry, on Texas. Like we may know in the negative on Texas coming up fairly soon. Like if they drop one of those games, but we may not know in the positive until they actually play at Texas A&M, right? Because I don't know that beating those 4 upcoming teams tells me that this team is the number 1 team. So far this year, they had looked like it to me. But again, the schedule was weak. We talked about that a lot this week. If A&M keeps playing well or just keeps winning and you go there and you have a decisive win, like, do we have to wait till Thanksgiving to know? Like we might. This schedule really is a pretty nice draw within the SEC.
It's nice to be in the SEC and not have to play anybody.
Yeah, this is true.
And
18-team leagues, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And to think, with everything going into that game, Thanksgiving weekend, I don't know what I can take out of it. Remember how we've joked about that? Like, I think maybe, I don't know. I don't think it was last year, maybe 2 years ago. Definitely not last year, actually. But I was like, I don't know if we'd be able to handle Texas and Texas A&M playing with like real stakes.
Well,
The
get ready.
college football world might not be like quite ready for it. Like I think the what's the Richter scale? Like whatever the vibes version of the Richter scale is, like that Texas A&M game at the end of the season is going to be stupid.
Yeah.
Like whatever we've gotten used to in terms of Egg Bowl dumb, like it won't be as awesome as that or as hilarious, but there will be things that will be uncharacteristic from both of those teams in ways both good and bad. Is
The
my
Republic of Texas could be torn asunder.
listen.